There you go. Immortalized.
You need to give me sharing rights tags.
Yep.
You're still on mute, Birdie. There you go.
There we are. Oh, he's got his headset on again. What a twat. You don't know which one I meant, do you?
I'm amazed it took
No,
you.
it's definitely Jeff.
I was amazed it
Over,
took.
squad leader, over.
You should be able to.
Can you
share
move
that
your
here.
jerk?
Oh,
I missed all that banter.
I'm amazed you got the speaker to work, Birdie.
John's dressed up for the evening.
Christ almighty.
Where are you off to then, John? Ralphie, where are you going?
It's date night at home.
Talking about me.
Yeah, looking very dapper.
Yeah, got to keep the economy going.
it's a bit late for that.
Hey, Jovan.
Hey guys,
Hey, Jove.
Yes.
Robbie.
how are we?
Where are you, Jovan? West London.
Yeah, just got back from the journey from Canary Wharf.
Well,
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
hell. We did like a team building activity thing today, and I thought it was gonna be paintballing or something like that, but it was picking shit out of the River Thames on a rubber thing.
That's not team building, that's community service.
I'm sure I've swallowed some as well. I feel ropey.
Was that with your work colleagues then, Jovan? What was that? Who was that with?
Yeah, work. We just launched like the world's most sustainable hotel like 2 weeks ago. So just shouting about it and doing all that stuff and community service.
Oh. Mr. Brooks. How are you, Sam?
Yeah, good, thanks, Dave. Brilliant.
There he is. Hey, Brooksy.
Hi guys,
Hey, Brooksy.
Hello, mate.
you all right, boys?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Just getting my gear set up.
I expect you're good at this, Brooksy.
No, hardly done any. But I sit on my sofa, so I have to get the camera set up right because you're on a big telly. No, good enough. Looking very. You've been for an interview, Rolfie, or what?
I've been to a funeral.
Oh, sorry about that. Why haven't you got a black tie on?
Because he was rugby club and this is Bucks Rugby.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Bit of a reunion, was it, John?
Well, it actually was a reunion. People I haven't seen for 40 years, some of them. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I could do better than this.
Tags, you want to give it a couple more minutes? See if we get anybody else running?
Who else were we expecting? I think Sheila was coming.
Dakes is skiing, isn't he? And
Dakes and Winston are away.
yeah, they're the only two though. So yeah, should be.
Still not there.
I can't start till Brooksy. Brooksy, just raise the height of your chair.
No, it's a sofa, mate. I
That's a
can't
great
raise the height
Here's
of
your
that.
bollocks, Phil.
That's a great shot.
Yeah.
Phil.
Nice one.
We're expecting Shaky and
Sorry,
Sheila.
that's it.
See you disappearing slowly.
Brooksy, you've got this tape, mate.
I've never hardly ever done it, and I want to be comfortable.
Jeez.
This is the guy we're trusting to level the containers.
Yeah, well, I'm a bit anal. It has to be perfectly right, mate. That might be
Yeah,
better.
we could see that.
If I fall asleep, then sorry.
You'll see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Put in slideshows here. Is that coming up as, hold on a second, duplicate slideshow. There you go. How's that?
That's it.
Perfect, mate.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. All right. So we were expecting Richie Dryden and Gilles, but if anyone's got their WhatsApp, we could just message them.
Who's going to do that so he doesn't get 8 of us?
Yeah, I'll send it, mate.
Let Brez do it.
Brez can't do it.
So just a question: can you all see that screen in full view, or do you see yourselves?
No, it's in full view. Yeah, and then you get a list of participants down the side.
Great.
And there's somebody lounging about on a sofa. Should he be with us?
Wow.
Is that like a "let me entertain you" moment, Phil? Is it?
This is my office.
All right.
Has Roz got a key yet?
She comes in, brings me tea and coffee all day, and a beer, and in the evenings, and food. I tend to live in here, actually.
But does she just shove it? Does she
Sounds
just shove
like
it
she
through
doesn't
a
need
hatch?
one.
Sorry.
Does she just shove it through a hatch?
No, I allow her in. She knocks on the door, and I let her in.
You're all heart.
Should we make a start then, guys?
Yeah.
Thanks, Chesh. Make a start.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, crackle.
So,
I'll
all
message them around.
right. Well, first of all,
Jeff's got a job as a pilot.
We've done all those, Brooksy, a few weeks ago, all those jokes.
Oh, okay.
All right. First of all, thanks, guys, for joining this evening. I'm going to record this so that we can send it around to the guys that are out skiing and stuff. Happy New Year to you all, and I'm glad to get January out of the way. It was a long January, so we're into February, not far away from indoor nets. So, and we've had 2 nets, haven't we, John? We've already been out and hit
Yeah,
some
we
balls,
have. Yeah.
which is great.
Smashing it.
So what I wanted to do tonight, I did send this presentation out with the invite, so hopefully you may have had a chance to take a look at it, but otherwise I'll just run through the presentation, and tags will jump in when we get to the player goals section, just to talk about some of the information we have about player performances and how we can use that data to set goals for the coming season and help encourage people to improve this year. But just by way of background, you may or may not be aware that Chesh cornered me at the club dinner, and we'd had a few drinks, and I was fairly vocal about the fact that I felt we've got the club in a really good place. Last year, you know, the ground was looking amazing. We had 47 players competing for places, first and second team. We did okay on the field, but felt like we could have done better. Both teams got promoted as a result of the restructuring of the league, so we're playing in a higher standard this year. And we've also got some great juniors coming through from a very well-run junior section. So I said to Chesh that, you know, perhaps we should develop a player development program where we can challenge ourselves to get some incremental improvement individually and collectively, help each other to really get the most out of our cricket and get the most out of the club. And that was the, if you like, the genesis of the idea. I've followed a little bit about what some of the, you know, top rugby clubs do, like the New Zealand All Blacks, where they break their squad down into small units or pods, as we call them, to help, develop small groups in similar positions, help with squad development, squad well-being. And what I recommended was we sort of adopt a similar model within the club and use the senior players to help bring on the rest of the squad, a combination of experienced players and juniors. And that's what we're intending to do. So this presentation will take us through that. Quite happy to take questions and make it interactive. So you guys have all agreed to act as what we call Ridge Bear developers or pod developers and lead one of those groups. We haven't asked Sam or Jovan or Sean to take on that role because we've got 3 new captains this year. Great group of new young captains. So we want Sam to be able to focus on leading the first team, Sean leading the second team, and Jovan leading the Sunday 11, which we'd quite like to sort of rebrand a little bit and make it more into like a senior academy game. So we get a blend of youth and experience and put a bit more sort of edge into the Sunday games if possible. But we don't want to burden the captains with the developer role, but we want to support the captains. That's why they're part of the core development team. So these are the topics in the deck. We can run through them fairly quickly and we can jump into any specific items in detail. But we'll look at the objectives of the program, just confirm who the Ridge Bear developers are, what that role looks like, what we're looking for, what we'd like each of us to do in that capacity. Then look at the team who's going to support the program, have a look at the pods themselves, an illustration of the goals that we would like to set, and then just fit a bit of fun with some of the recognition and the fun we'd like to drive through the season as we get some of these performances. So just in terms of objectives, I went to the committee, what was it, a couple of months ago, I guess, guys, and I basically presented a version of this slide, and I said to the committee, imagine if we could build on our strengths and really take the club to another level in terms of support, player support, well-being, inclusiveness at the heart of what we do. But then importantly, if we could get, for example, on average, a couple more games from everybody, availability increase would be huge in terms of strengthening our teams every week. Get our batsmen to contribute 100 more runs each through the season, 5 more wickets a bowler, have people arriving in smart training kit. And bottom left-hand corner there, that's a real image of the new training kit that Rolfie has ordered now. We should be with us, if not by indoor nets, just after indoor nets. And the intention is we'll have that kit available for the whole of the playing squad. And the idea would be that we support the captains, get to games on time, ahead of time, do a proper warm-up, get ourselves properly mentally prepared for the games, encourage each other to improve our practice and net attendance, get time with bat in hand, bowling, fielding, we could all improve. And then as we get out there and play, as we start to perform, let's really celebrate, those great performances, the 50s, the 100s, 5-4s, etc. The other thing we want to do is create a bridge from the juniors to the seniors. I was actually pretty staggered how fantastic that junior section really is. And there's a bunch of juniors coming through that want to play senior cricket, but there wasn't a way to sort of really welcome them into the squad. And I think this gives us a platform to help to do that. And Ollie White has been fantastic in terms of that bridge, and he's part of the core team. And then help to fast track them into the squad by using, that Sunday fixture, rather than making it a sort of passive game. Let's turn it into a bit of a senior academy game and put a bit more edge, as I said, into that game. We want to attract new players, so we want to be on the lookout for new players. We're lucky last year, we got several new players like Toby from Spain, for example, and we want to attract those people, get them into the squad, welcome them into the squad by incorporating them into these pods. And then as we play week to week, I think we need to think about improving our communication within each team so that we talk about game plans, talk about the opposition, talk about our role within the team. So, if you're going in number 4 and we're a couple of wickets down, what's your job? Is it to, make sure you're in after 10 overs and we haven't lost a load more wickets, and, we get runs at the back end of the innings, not just losing wickets at the front end, that type of thing. And obviously get the most out of our cricket. That's the most critical thing, individually and collectively. So those are the objectives, what we're trying to achieve. I have to thank Alex Perry for this slide. He's joined McKinsey, former Army officer. He's now joined McKinsey. And I sent him this deck and he very kindly built this slide for me, which kind of illustrates, left to right, what we're trying to do. So the fundamental goal is to absolutely enjoy, get the most out of our cricket individually and collectively. And if you work from right to left, if we can get those types of increases in performance, and we're not looking for massive increases, incremental increases in performance, then it will all contribute towards the club being more successful. So that's what we're trying to do. We set up 10 pods with 5 or 6 players in each pod. And I'm really grateful for you guys stepping up and agreeing to participate in the program, take on this role. So these are the 10 pod leaders. We'll show you the pods that we've designed shortly. I've spoken to almost everybody individually, and everybody's got a real sense of enthusiasm for this. And I've had some great ideas and feedback from you guys. So any more feedback and ideas are more than welcome, because we can all, we can always improve this program as it develops. But I think we'll have a lot of fun with it. A little bit of maybe a little bit of healthy competition between the pods, bit of camaraderie, bit of banter, but getting the most out of the folks that will be sort of mentoring. Any questions about the pod leaders, first of all? Any that clear to everyone?
Was that Mike Winston's idea of a nickname?
I didn't know his nickname, and he actually told me his nickname was Winnie, but I thought that was pathetic. So I said, you should be winners. So he said, that'll work. But if you want to put Winnie in, we can. I'm not sure it was Winnie the Pooh or something, but no, he actually had a great chat with Mike, and he was really enthusiastic. I think it will help him as well to really knuckle down and get the most out of his own game. I can say that while he's not here, so he'll listen to the recording. So, role of the developer. So, there's several things we want you guys to do. Obviously, first of all, lead and mentor your pod. Birdie, you've already started communicating your pod, which is fantastic. And I won't tell everybody that you handpicked it, but you did. And obviously, we want to help each player set goals, and then encourage them on how they can achieve those goals. So give them some constructive feedback about, where you think they could work on their game, etc., to achieve their objectives. Obviously, welcome new players. Lots of communication. Let's get a lot of communication going through the season, encouraging people, recognizing performance, encouraging people to play. That's first and foremost the key thing. And then let's have a lot of fun and get a lot of enjoyment out of it and celebrate the achievements. And then all of us should become really role models. What I'd love to see happen is that people are coming to us later in the season and saying, how do I get to be one of those Rich Bear developers next year? So that we could grow the squad and we could have maybe an increase in the number of pods and bring some additional pod leaders into the model. I know you've talked about, for example, seeing if you could get Mitzi to do this next season, Steve.
Yeah.
That would be a great idea. So that's what we're trying to do, what we're asking you guys to do. Chesh, thanks very much for putting this together. I asked Chesh if he could sort of just create a simple illustration of what the communications might look like within the pod. And what we're hoping will happen is, you get the guys together, you get a WhatsApp group going, do an introductory call, speak to them one-to-one and as a group. Maybe give yourself a nickname. Grizzlies here was a suggestion from Chesh. If we're at Nets or match day or whatever, spend a bit of time with your pod members. Talk about how they're doing, what they're enjoying, what they're trying to work on. Obviously, recognise their performance, and again, just have some fun with it. And there's a lot of experience in those 10 players who are the pod leaders, so we should be able to give some fairly good, solid, constructive advice to players about how their game's going, where they might want to improve. I know, Steve, you put a lot of time into working with people around their batting technique. Tags, I know you're passionate about, really analysing how people are bowling and encouraging them. I think we should all take the opportunity to try not become out and out coaches, but try to encourage people to work on their game in areas that make sense. Chesh, anything else you want to say about the comms within the pods? Does that make sense?
I think that's all good, Dave. To be honest, I think you've covered it all off really well. I think the main underlying thing is just to get communication between players, and just like we're doing on the main WhatsApp, is just getting it down to a more intimate level and just focusing on performance, having fun, encouraging people to play more.
Yeah. And there's a few more ideas around communication we'll come on to in a second. So the program timetable is fairly straightforward, and the good news is we're on plan. It's actually going to plan, which is good. So January, recruit the Ridge Bear developers, which we've done. Again, really grateful for that for you guys. We've got the initial pod design. We're going to just walk you through that in a second. Happy to take feedback on that. And then as now we're into February, what we'd like to do is get Tags to share with you after this meeting the player goal outline for each of the pods, and then have you talk to each player and essentially confirm or refine the goals. So let's say we had a particular batsman and we said they could probably get another 50-60 runs. You sit down with them and they might say, screw that, I could get another 150 runs. If you think that's practical, then goals. So you've got Tags can start to give us regular updates on a week-over-week basis. A week-over-week basis, so that you can start to talk to players about how it's actually going as the season unfolds. We've got a club night, Meet the Captains night on the 11th of February, which is a week on Friday. Sam is hosting that as MC. I'm sponsoring the food, and we've got a really nice agenda. Hamza's going to open up with a discussion around religion and inclusion, diversity. And then we've got Sam talking about the season from a captain's perspective. I'll give a brief outline on this program, and then we'll have a great social and start to get people together before the pre-season nets. Pre-season nets start what date, John?
20th, that's the fortnight on Sunday. And as you may have seen, the first session only is 3:30. Thereafter, 6 more Sundays at 5 p.m. And the juniors will have an hour either before or after us. That was all down to availability of the nets facility. So it's 20th, it starts at 3:30.
Yep. And then we're hoping to get the training kit either just before that or just after, but hopefully before end of February. What we intend to do, just to let you all know.
Sorry, David. It's 6 weeks from probably last week, I should think.
Okay, so we're going to get that in March. what we're going to do is we're going to, once we get that kit, we're going to mail it to everybody's house as sort of welcome to the season. So it'll be a real positive, motivational present to the players. We'll have their name and initials on it, and hopefully people get pretty jazzed by that. Then we get into April. Hopefully they get some decent weather. The outdoor nets begins. We want to plan a club photo day when we can get squad photo and then get mugshots of all the players individually in their training kit, which we can then use through the season as we're communicating in the website and etc. That's probably going to be on your 60th birthday, isn't it, Tex?
I believe that is the plan, 23rd of April.
So that's our current thinking, is we've got 2 local games.
Yeah,
So we can do it in the morning before the game and allow the players to get to each respective game. And then we got the warm-up games, and then we move into the league, and then we should be into an environment where we've got some buzz in the club. We're getting performances. We're talking about those performances. We're celebrating those performances. We're going to create a wall of fame with those performances in the club room. We're going to have basically some vouchers based on achievement that we'll give out that could be redeemed at the club. Not necessary for alcohol, it could be for soft drinks as well. That's entirely down to the choice of the person who has won the voucher. And obviously we do a lot of communication week over week within the website and match reports, etc. And then we should get to end of season, have the end of season dinner and awards, and hopefully we can do a review as part of that and give out 1 or 2 awards around development. And then one of the ideas we're working on is to work towards an official honours board by the end of the year in the clubhouse, so that we can start to memorialise some of the great achievements in the club. You've seen those in a lot of golf clubs and football clubs and rugby clubs and cricket clubs, and it would be great if we could start to get that established. So, we've got pretty cool program for a small amateur village club. This is the support team. Myself and Chesh will lead the program through the season. Thanks to Tags and Gilles, they're going to share the stato roles. Tags has done an amazing job already. We've got some fantastic statistics already to hand. So we've got all of the historical numbers. It's very easy for us to produce the performance goals. Ollie's going to be the bridge from the juniors to seniors. John as playing committee lead. For example, John's leading the provisioning of the kit. Also, John's going to put a lot of time into things like the net preparation, things like that with the captains. And then obviously the captains will run their teams, and they've got very progressive ideas for this coming season. This is the set of pods. So there's 10, as I mentioned. We got together a few weeks ago at the boot, and myself, Tags and Chesh. We had a great planning session. I'd already spoken to you, Steve, so some great input. And what we tried to do is really put logical groupings together based on batsmen, bowlers, experienced players, where to put the juniors, etc. I'm sure there'll be a few puts and takes as the season gets closer, but I think we've got a pretty good layout of how these pods are going to work. And I'm not sure how we finished with the exact numbers, but with the juniors, I think we're over 50, aren't we, Tags?
Yeah, about 53 at the moment, I think.
Yeah, so we're up around 53 senior squad members, which is fantastic. And if we get reasonable, availability from those guys, then we'll have, and it could be guys and girls, by the way, because we've got some girls coming through from the juniors, which I think is fantastic. So we could have some great, positive competition for places through the season. Any questions about the layout of the pods, first of all, before we move on?
Just real quick, Wellesley, is Tilly Fellows confirmed? Only because the PDF you sent doesn't have her name on it, so that's a recent addition. Is
Yeah.
that confirmed? Well, that's
Yeah.
brilliant. Now that really is good then, because that's kind of what we need. So that's cool. And obviously she's come up from the age of 7 onwards anyway. So
Yeah, we literally updated this slide yesterday, Shaky, on the back of a dialogue with James Dow's, Duncan Dow, Ollie and Tags. And I think we're pretty close to having the junior names we think are coming through.
brilliant.
Dave?
Yep.
Sorry, just to interrupt on detail, Mo Waka won't be around this summer.
Okay. So should we?
Pakistan, right?
Yeah.
That's the other thing, Wellesley, is that there'll probably be a few people on those lists who either aren't going to play or, you know, for instance, probably, I mean, I wouldn't suspect Jeff will be around much. And there's a few on there, probably Tom Hickey, I would say, is probably not going to play.
There's a couple more that I've spoken to as well who are having kids in April and May, and we're going to struggle to get games out of.
I think
I've spoken to Tom Hickey a little bit, and he's saying maybe at the moment. But Birdie, do you think that's a definite no?
I would say no at the moment.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to worry though. I think make it available to them, put them
We've
in.
still got
Some
pretty
people-
high.
Yeah, some people are going to engage a lot, and some people are going to engage a little bit less. But the ones that you don't want anyone feeling they're not part of it.
Yeah. No, but I think if you've got that intelligence, if you could just pop a text or an email to me, Tags and Chesh, we'll just make a note of that. So we're just, you know, first of all trying to persuade them to play if we can. But if they're not going to play, then, you know, we could list them further down these pods and just make sure the pod leader knows that, you know, for example, I mean, Shorty, for example, is in Gilet's pod. Shorty might not be available, so, you know, Gilet needs to know that. So if necessary, we could reorder a few players to balance up. But just to share if you get any insight like that, share it with us, and we'll take that into account. It's never going to be a perfect model, obviously. Hopefully, we'll get a few new players as well that we haven't even thought of yet. This was an illustration I built for the first committee meeting, actually, just to show you the concept. And I'll just walk you through this very briefly. But imagine you've got the players in the pod on that left-hand side. You've got a basic profile, you know, right-hand batsman, right-arm bowler, etc. And then you've got 2021 statistics, number of games played, runs scored, average, overs, wickets. And we've got all of that data, and Tags will kind of, you know, I think it'll blow you away when you understand how good the data is. And from that, we can set some incremental goals, like, you know, let's take an example. We were playing around with Chesh at that time, played 18 games. Okay, that's pretty good. Play 18 again, Chesh. But instead of getting 450 runs, get 500, get your average to 28. That type of thing. Chesh might turn around and then say, screw that, I'm going to play 20 games and I want to get my average up above 30. Therefore, I need to score, you know, 560 runs. And that's exactly what we want to see, that sort of dialogue, that sort of attitude, that sort of thinking, and then get those goals laid out. And then think about on that right-hand side, as you get to know the players, what are some of the coaching notes or some of the development ideas? You know, in this example, I wrote down, you know, Chesh had a great season 2021, sorry. You know, build on that. You know, we want you to open the batting in the seconds, week in, week out. You know, get time in the nets with someone like Birdie and work on the areas of your game you want to develop, because Steve's a great batting coach. Work on the shots that you want to work on to improve, you know, your strike rate or whatever. That's the type of thing we're looking for. And then to get to a point where we have this type of information, including us, by the way, we're all in a pod, we lead a pod and we're in a pod, but we all have goals of what we're trying to do to improve. And then as the season unfolds, we can start to see how we're doing against those goals. Now, the impact of doing this, if you look at that bottom left-hand corner, simple example here is just in that one pod, by setting the goals we did, we got, instead of 9 games on average, we got 13 on average. We got an additional 440 runs, additional 19 overs, and additional 14 wickets out of this group of players. So imagine if we could get that type of lift from all 10 of the pods. That would have a profound impact on the overall performance of the club. And that's, again, what we're trying to do. So it won't be easy. This isn't, we're playing a higher standard of cricket than we did last year. But that's the kind of thinking we're trying to get to. So, Tags, do you want to say anything else about the stats, what you've got available, how you would visualize this working through the season?
Do you want to unshare your screen and I'll put mine on? And this will kind of give us a bit more idea of what we've got.
How you doing, Shaky, by the way? Good to see you.
Good morning. Yeah, sorry I'm a bit late.
Good to see you in the wine zone.
Yeah, standard, yeah.
Right, so you should now be able to see this screen.
Yep.
Now, what I've done here is taken all of the players that are in this and we've populated all of their stats. And it's a little bit more detailed than the screen that Dave was showing you, because you may well want to go, yeah, you made 400 runs, you want to make 450, but with individuals, you might want to go a little bit more specific. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this sheet available on a Google Drive, so everyone can access it and everyone can have a look at it. And actually, if you want to, you can populate bits in it as and when. It is a bit cumbersome, but it's got some filters on it. So if Dave wants to go in, you just select all, select Dave Wells, and now you've only got Dave's pod to deal with. And if he just wants to know how Brooksy's doing, select all, Phil Brooks, Bosh, there you go. Now it's down to one sheet and you can go across. So with Brooksy, we've got a profile. We know he played 15 games, he made 179 runs at 14.92. Let's sloppy Brooksy. Bowling, a full over, economy rate, possibly got some work to be done there.
Time is really
50
Picking on you, Brooksy.
etc. Now, this sheet moves across, so we target number of games, number of runs, 50s, 100s, his average, if he's bowling, how many overs. You don't have to populate every field here. Not everybody will need a target for bowling. Well, not everybody will necessarily be interested in a target for batting, although I think for the likes of Coops, you might want to say, look, last year he made 10 runs, let's try and make 40 this year, because that might make the difference at the back end of one game. And then there's some space for player-specific targets. So we can add in, for example, in my pod, we're going to work quite hard on maidens. We want people to bowl maiden overs. So we're going to target that. We're going to tell people what the percentage of maidens ought to be, and we'll monitor it. Catches, if it's a wicket keeper, maybe stumpings, if it's a wicket keeper, and anything else that you want to put in, we can just add that on. And then you can look at it as it comes across. Now, in each of these, as the season goes in, you don't need to populate this. I'll be collecting this data anyway, so I'll be filling this sheet in each week as per games. So once Brooksy plays his first game, just stick the one in there. He's now played, not two. Oh, sorry, we target. We're going to target him for, let's say, 16 games. Once he's played 2, we know he's done 13% of his target. Similarly with his batting, we might want to target him for 350 runs. By week 2, he's got 75 and he's at 21% of his target. So it'll just automatically update and fill in, and we'll be able to monitor this as often or as periodically as you want to. You might want to look at it monthly, you might want to look at it every week. You'll have some players who might want to engage in this really heavily and want to, each week they want to know, right, where I'm on the target, am I going forward? What we'd like you to do, rather than us just arbitrarily setting these targets out, we'd like you to speak to the people in your pods and see what's realistic. Because there's absolutely no point in putting someone down for 18 games if we know they're only going to play 9 because they work every other Saturday or something. So you've got to talk to them and say, okay, how many games do you think you're going to play? How many would you like to play? Let's put that in as a target and monitor that. how many runs across the course of that you think you're going to get, how many wickets do you want to take, etc., etc. Set those targets up. People respond so much better to a target that they've had an input to than they do to a target that's just handed out to them. So get their engagement, get them involved in it, and then we will monitor the stats. And if there's anything else you want, I can put it on that sheet. The only thing I can't really give you is batsmen's strike rates, because if the game's not scored on a computer, we won't have that. But pretty much everything else we can get. So tell me what you want. We'll add it on.
Slightly, so that means you've got it.
And then after we've, in fact, between now and Friday, I'll make this sheet available to you, and you can start thinking about the 5 players in your pod and how you think you want to be targeting them, and then talking to them about what the targets are. Okay. Any questions?
Tags on what I missed this earlier. When's the first opportunity to actually talk to the people in your pod?
Well, you can start contacting as soon as you like, but we will have a fair chunk of them there on Friday next week. So I think there we kind of present the overall program. And after that, I think we just start picking them up. Hopefully we'll get them at net. It's not a defined time schedule. You know, you want to get hold of them, you want to get them engaged. Particularly with the juniors, I want to try and encourage them to come along to senior nets, the ones that we're putting into this, so that we can get them talking and thinking and feeling like actually somebody's looking after them, specifically looking after their development and taking them forward. And you know, they've got an old head somewhere that they can go and chat to, that they know, and ask questions rather than just turning up at nets and going, what do I do now?
Understood. Okay.
Yeah.
You think it would make, Shaky, do you think it would make sense for us to maybe write to the players and with an outline and almost like congratulating them on being part of the squad for the season and which pod they're in?
It's kind of what I'm thinking, right? I'm thinking that if you make a more general kind of announcement, so an overall announcement, which says to everyone, this is who your pod so-and-so is going to be, then it makes it easier for the pod leader to then reach out to their own pod and then start that dialogue.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, we'll take that. We had discussed that at one of our meetings a couple of weeks ago, and we hadn't made a decision on it. But I think if everyone agrees that that would make a lot of sense, then I think ideally we try to get that out before the 11th, so it actually encourages people to come to the 11th as well.
Agreed. I think it makes perfect sense then.
Yeah. All right. We'll take that one as an action then. Brilliant. Thanks, Rich.
Okay.
Any other questions for Tags? I think you've done a cracking job on this, Tags.
Thank you.
He loves the spreadsheet, that boy.
Oh, he'll do like a spreadsheet. Yeah.
All right. Let's go back. Let's go back to this presentation to make sure you can see it. Any questions on the stats and the goals? That relatively clear. And look, we'll provide a lot of support. If there's any questions or concerns about filling stuff in or where to find it, come and talk to us. That's what we're here for. Okay. So the other thing we talked about is we want to really celebrate achievement. And the ideas around this, and we're very open to other ideas, is obviously we've got the chatter within the pods that we just talked about. We'll have the weekly stats, and we can do obviously regular reports through the website, etc. WhatsApp groups, etc. You guys will be running. We want to get this wall of fame going, where as people start to clock up 50s and 100s and 5s and catches, we get them illustrated in the clubhouse. Something that came up last weekend we talked about was a slightly different topic, but it's linked to this. Is we're going to get some posters made that advertise when our games are and the events that we're actually having at the club. There's nothing at the club right now that actually tells anyone when our season starts, who we're playing, who's home and away. So just creating more visibility that cricket is actually taking place and where it is. So the Wall of Fame we'd like to get going. The redeemable vouchers. So what we're going to do is basically produce essentially like a laminated set of vouchers. Probably Tags will be the custodian, And if someone gets a 50, they get a voucher. That voucher will entitle them to redeem, let's say the equivalent of a jug of beer, I've agreed that I'll sponsor that this season, but I'll look for sponsors next season to try and make that more of a tradition that we develop in the club. The whole idea of that is it's bringing money back to the club, it's bringing people back to the club, and we're socializing together. That's what we're trying to achieve. End of year review and rewards and awards. I've actually ordered one of these statuettes, if you like, a bear, as a possible gift for our outgoing chairman. And depending on how good that thing is when it arrives, as it's ordered through Etsy coming from China, you never know. But if it's as good as it looks, then something like that could be an appropriate type of award to give out around development at the end of the season dinner. And then, as I said, we'd love to get this club honours board up and running by the end of the year. And we'd love to get any other ideas around celebrating achievement from you guys. Sam has done a lot of work looking at match days, practice. It's great to have Sam coming in as new first team captain, Sean, second team captain, and Jovan. I think we've got 3 great guys now to take us on from here. Sam, you've got quite a few great ideas. Do you want to summarise your thinking at this point?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's kind of linked to this whole development idea. And I think, as you said earlier, Dave, there's areas that we can do a little bit better on the pitch, as well as the work off it, that's going to complement that. So I think, as you can see here, just arriving on time, that might be slightly different depending on whether it's 1s, 2s, Sunday, home and away, but coming together ready for the game, and then everyone engaging in a bit of a pre-match, whether that is home, jobs to be done around the ground. I'm new to captain, I don't want to have to do it all myself, but then more importantly, I think everybody stretching, warming up as a team, and while we do that, talking about the tasks, the jobs that each player is going to do during the course of the game, so everyone's clear on their role as we go into the match. And that, I don't want to make warm-ups like particularly mandatory. I think everyone does that at their own pace, but it's important we do it as a team. Similarly, debriefing after the game. I think we used to do this maybe when I was younger, more than we have done in recent years, but debriefing as a team in the change room after the match, again, tidy up. The shower rules, I think, is one, just it's moving with the times really, in terms of junior protection, juniors, and also inclusion around Islam, which we'll talk about again. So I think the two are kind of both playing into that. And for me, simply what that means is that after the game, the rule that I want to have in the first team is that we debrief for 15 minutes as a team after the match in the change rooms together. And during that time, anyone who doesn't want to shower, that's their time to change. And then everyone else can have a shower after that. I think it's a simple solution to what can cause a problem. And then the nets, I think, again, I've got some ideas, and I'd like to maybe engage the Bridge Bear developers around how we approach nets, particularly in the summer. I think we can be a bit more structured in how we're going about nets, and I think that'll improve playing performance too. So that's it. Yeah, a few ideas, and I think I'll talk a little bit more about that on the 11th too.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Sam. Cool. Go ahead, John.
Dave, yeah, I've got 2 questions really. One is just, what format is your presentation on this going to be on Friday week? So I don't think you're using overheads, are you? And it might be
no, it'll just be a stand-up.
How you're going to get the message over?
What I thought I might do is bring along just a few copies of some of this material to be available if anyone will take it away. But I'm not presenting slides. I'll just talk to the concept. I think it'll be fairly easy to do. We've made good progress, so we're not starting from scratch. We can say this is not just an idea. We're well into this. This is happening. So it's
Okay.
going to be very affirmative as opposed to an idea.
Okay, my second one is, and this is really a club captain's input, and I suppose it meshes in both with development and with Sam as well. And I'd like to ensure that the captains in particular just sort of continually reinforce the higher standards that we've gradually tried to bring in the last year or two, whether it's practice and how we practice, but certainly how we appear on the pitch and kit and that sort of thing, wearing the right club kit in the right way. So, it comes back to a phrase that came up with last year, which is we may be a club. We may be a club in a village, but we're not a village club. And I think this is all part of the sort of program that you were putting together. And it does involve other standards as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
I've just got a quick question for Sam.
Yeah.
For when we do nets, are you wanting to split up the teams in terms of first team to train together, then the second team train together, or like certain drills together, or are you wanting to implement them all together? Only because if it is like separated, that might make it slightly easier for the juniors who are playing to get to know their team better. But then obviously that might segregate different teams. I don't know how easy it would be.
I think that's probably one for us to talk over, Sean. I think there's pros and cons of both.
Yeah.
There are advantages to having everyone training together. Maybe some of the twos batsmen facing some of the one bowlers at times, and vice versa. There's probably, like you say, element of working in the pods together. If there is a group of maybe a pod which is more heavy on the twos players and ones players, maybe there are drills that they could do as a group. I think more fielding drills is something that everyone can do together. We could have a little bit of a wicket keeper section. I think, it's even something that could evolve from week to week. So we can talk it over.
Yeah, I'll work with you on that. I think that an important part of that is that obviously it does depend who's there on a particular night, and you can't take all the bowlers out to do fielding drills. But on the other hand, we have to have a culture where everybody expects to do, a bit of fielding at some stage, whoever they are. And then you can reverse that. So, for example, last year, there was a period of time when Taj wouldn't go in the nets, who just felt he was a bowler and didn't need to. And I said one week, you must go in the nets. The team will need you. And by fluke that Saturday, I think he made 6 in a partnership of 45, which I can't remember helped saved or win a game. So we need to make sure that everybody, however we structure it, that it involves everybody doing a bit of everything at some time.
And I think that's where the developers can encourage the people in their pod to do that kind of thing. So it doesn't fall on a couple of people to keep an eye out on everyone. Everyone knows who they're looking out for in that way.
Yeah.
All right. So that's pretty much the program, guys. It's not rocket science. There's a bit of common sense in there. It's gonna succeed based on how we lead from the front as the senior players. But I think we could have a huge amount of fun with this. And I'm particularly excited about the junior connection, because those are the players, obviously, who want to come in and accelerate, for the future. And I think it will really come to life. There's a couple of other things going on. We met with Bianca last week in a cafe and talking about some ideas around, could we run a few family days, through the season, where it's encouraging almost like a brunch setup, do something for the kids, so that players who have got young children, their other halves and the family feel really welcome. I've always felt the club has been hugely welcoming. I remember when my kids were younger, it was a great place to come socially. And I think we've got a lot of players with young children that, helping them to sort of bring their families along, help them get more cricket. So any questions, any ideas, any thoughts from anybody? Then I'll stop sharing in a second.
I just got a couple of things, Wells Dog, and then it's real quick. So Sam was talking about getting there a little, and I'm not saying I've ever practiced what I preached here, but what I would say, and we've said this for years, that if we actually are there early, when you go to a game, the opposition see everyone already there and looking all in kit or whatever, there is a bit of a mindset where you do start to win the game before you've even started. And I know we've said this for absolute years and years and years and never practiced what we preach. But if we are serious about this, then we should make that semi-mandatory. So that's the first thing. That's just for the captains to work out. And the second thing is that after the game, I really like the idea of like a debrief and stuff like that. But what I would remind people is that, we are also a social club. But one of the things that used to work 20 odd years ago, even Wellesley, when you joined, was the fines committee. And like, it's a bit of fun after the game because actually, win or lose, at the end of the game, no one wants to go out and lose. But do you know what? Getting fined for being the ugliest man in the world week on week was funny, right? I mean, it just was funny, right? I mean, even Ferret found it funny. And so it's just something to consider because, well, it could now be you, Rolfie, but like, it is funny. So just something to consider that after the game, a fines committee sometimes does work.
Yeah, good shout.
That obviously does have to be considerate of. So you don't want I don't know, a young player receiving an award or something, but you have to be careful if you award it to, obviously, and the types. I don't think you can get away with the world's ugliest man anymore unless it is the same person every week. And if it is, Joe Van, that's got your name written all over it every week.
Right, go on the mark.
I think
Volunteer job. Well done, son.
Just going back to the cricket side, something I'm going to look at when I have a look at the divisions. I think I get a bit peeved when players say I can only play at home and the away game is Kimble or Princess Risborough or Stoughton Church or Tiddington. So I'm going to draw up a list of what I count as home games. So if we are playing away at somewhere that's a 15-20 minute drive and you live at 15-20 minutes from our club anyway, then that counts as a home game. So appreciate sometimes people have got a dinner engagement they can't change or don't want to change, but as far as I'm concerned, a home game is anywhere within a very short reasonable travel distance, and that's it, because we can't have players that only play at home because the club doesn't work that way.
In that case, then, Rolf, this year, well, probably a question to Sam. Are you each week picking the best team that you possibly can, or are you going to pick that based on a balance between the ones and twos?
Good question, Birdie. I think ideally I would like to pick the strongest side possible because we're in the most competitive league we're going to have been in for a long time. But I also appreciate that the wider success of both teams is important. So I'll give like a politician's answer, basically, and you'll see it when the first week arrives, I guess.
I think
with a person like Mids as well, as in obviously he'll have kids as well. He'll only be able to play like the home game, really.
That's it. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration with selection, right?
But obviously you've got to pick Mid, surely, regardless. As in for me, anyway, if he's available on twos, I don't know what he's going to be like availability for the ones, but
yeah. Again, there's individuals like Mids, maybe if he can only play home or what we call home matches, that will influence the team he is in. I think, if the ones are away, or say the twos are away, ones are at home, and Mids can only play at home, then there is an argument that he should play ones, right? Regardless of whether he's playing ones week in, week out. It's a long, I don't know, Birdie. I'm not sure.
Just on a quick one, Sam. What if Shaky is one of the better players and should be picked for the ones?
That's never going to happen. That's never happening.
You're getting into fantasy land now.
Yeah.
I don't think we want to get into selection.
He's still class, right?
I don't think we want to get into selection detail now. And I think we all know it has to evolve and we have to look at it because, we might have one policy and then one week you find there's 6 bowlers being picked in the first and none in the seconds, and we really have to look at that. As far as the home only thing's concerned, I mean, obviously there are certain exceptions, but Mids is a class. Midsy has never been a problem with where he plays, but you've automatically homed into Mids. You can only play at home. No, Midsy, if you're playing at Tiddington or somewhere, 15 minutes down the road, that's home. A lot of our games don't last till 7:30 anyway. So
who's picking the teams, John? Then,
well, the selection committee will, as normal, involve the captains, of vice captains, and me, and possibly a couple of co-opted members. But in practice, we have discussion. You know, Saturday night, if we're all back at the club, we'll have discussion. So, you know, as well as I do, we had one year, we had all the captains and vice captains under Ben keeping round the dressing room. If we can do that, we will. But basically, it is those 5 people plus, you know, you're going to get input. Tag will get input. Wills will get input.
All right, guys. Let's...
Sorry, where's it gone?
No, go ahead, Sean.
I was just saying, are we going to have a limit, as in like a time period of where you have to be, say you're available by, or otherwise you can't be picked?
Taggart?
Yeah, I think yes, and probably occasionally no.
Right.
I mean, to some extent, if we've got 26 players available on Tuesday, we pick a teams, and occasionally someone that should have played will miss out because they were too lazy. And I think we've got to get that message across.
Yeah.
I gave everyone a right bollocking about team snap about week 4 last year, and it worked really well till about week 8, and then they all slipped back into the habit of waiting for someone to chase them. I do not have the time to chase 8 individual players who haven't.
That is an area where the pod developers can really help. You know,
yeah,
just
definitely.
I was going to say,
encourage that accountability within each player. And get not negatively, but be on their case positively about, we want you playing. Let us know when you can play.
We want to try and develop a culture where on Sunday night everyone goes back and checks their availability. And if someone puts maybe because they genuinely don't know, I'm fine with that. But what I can't be doing with is going down that list and finding 25 blanks on it, because that just sets up a hellish week for everybody concerned. So if we can get a culture.
Birdie's question, the process won't change in the sense that we will start, we hope, on Monday with a list of available players, and then that dictates any thinking that we haven't already carried out over the weekend.
Right, guys, I'm going to...
I think, sorry,
last
Dave.
Last question, Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we need to be very careful also as pod leaders that we don't base success purely on statistics.
Yeah.
Because you know, to say to Chess, go and get 600 runs or whatever, it could be that he develops his self and his game in a very different way this season than last year. So we just have to be very mindful that it's not about all a complete result-based, outcome, that it's based on somebody who actually might be developing as a cricketer rather than just stats.
I totally agree with that. That's a great way to finish the meeting, actually. That's a good bit of advice. So there's an action there to get an announcement out before the 11th. So we'll work on that so that there's a explanatory announcement before we get to the 11th. And then once that's gone out, I'd say after the 11th, all the pod developers should really be engaging their pods and starting to work on the goal setting, etc., so that when we get to indoor nets, we've got a good idea, and then we're encouraging them to start the season positively, and then get the season on the way. But I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's great that we're talking about cricket now, at the beginning of February, and you guys, agreeing to play these roles is fantastic. So once again, just big thank you.
It's the big picture, isn't it, Dave? It's you're generating, excitement, interest in cricket. We're thinking about the season at the beginning of February and not when it comes around in April. It's a question, everybody being involved and interested and excited.
I mean, who would have thought you would have played such wonderful cover drives on Saturday morning?
Well, I was going to say the forecast is good. There's 5% chance of rain. Are you around again, Dave?
I am.
So 9 o'clock, anybody? And if a few people say they're going to come down, we might even get a bowling machine up in one net, see if that's working. Yeah. But yeah, come and see my off drive.
All right, guys, listen, thanks very much. Big thanks to Chesh and Tags for all the help and support. And thanks to you guys. Let's have a brilliant season. Have a lot of fun with this. And, look, we're going to learn as this goes. It's not something we've done before. So, a lot of it will work, some of it might not. But I think we'll get a lot out of it if we put into it what I think we can. So let's have a great season.
See you on the 11th, guys.
Awesome.
See you guys.
Cheers, guys.
Yes.
Tags, you still there?
Yep.
Your name has got a few residuals who we don't know whether they're coming or not on. Friday
Uh,
on the spreadsheet? I mean, there's people like Anna Raman, which may not get through to her.
Yeah, I've messaged. Well, I've written on the sheet. Well, I've messaged everybody. David Singh is not available.
Yeah.
Although he did come back and say thanks for the invite. Unfortunately, I'm not around.
Yeah.
Oh shit! I'm looking at the wrong sheet.
There's Alistair Scott.
Yeah, I've messaged him and emailed him. No
Yeah.
response.
Max.
I don't know what's going on with Max. I've had a couple of replies from Ricky about other stuff, but not on this.
Yeah.
I've got a feeling they are coming, but because I think Tilly's coming with them, but I'll try and chase that.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, we probably don't need to know the exact numbers for food, because I doubt we do the food in portions, but
Yeah, for one or two,
we're nearly,
it's not gonna do the end of the world.
yeah, we're nearly there. I see Charlie needs. It'd be interesting whether Sam had got Charlie to come, but we're nearly there. So
Yeah.
there's a few maybes. That doesn't really help. Have we got anything from Ben Cooper on this list? Yes, he's coming.
He's coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's not only coming; he's coming twice, because when the messages went out on WhatsApp, he came back, went, yeah, I'm in. I'm definitely in.
Oh, good. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I think we just go with the maybes, and yeah. Right. So I'm going to tell Wellesley how many. So do you think, in terms of telling Wellesley, we don't know whether Alistair Scott's coming. You think there might be a Mondre Lane or two, perhaps?
Yeah, I think 43, 44.
Yeah. Anna Raman, is that?
Don't know. I'll try her.
Yeah.
A different way. But it's always difficult. I mean, I know Anna quite well, but I don't know her parents that well.
Yeah.
When I know the parents, it's easy, because I messaged Vicky and she was like, yeah, we're all over that. Same with the Dowds. They're all coming. And
Yeah.
coming as well. It's
I don't know if Wellesley has this spreadsheet, does it? But I'll send it to him now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on a Google Drive. Send him a share for it.
Oh, can you do it? I mean, how do you do that?
I don't think I can do it. It's not my sheet.
Right. I'll get Samuel to do it.
Yeah.
And did we mention it to Said or not? Can you remember?
I did, but he didn't come back on the 11th. I put him onto TeamSnap, but he came back to me and said, I've accepted it and updated my profile. So he's now on TeamSnap. I mean, if we're doing a general message before the 11th, I would guess TeamSnap would be the place that it's predominantly going to go out of.
Yeah, I think we ought to do it. For all running the risk of more bad WhatsApps, we ought to do it again on WhatsApp. I just don't want people to have any reason to say, "Oh, I forgot," or didn't think it was for me.
I think let's bash it again from Monday.
Yeah.
A message back from Gilles tonight. I sent the WhatsApp, said you're meant to be on a Zoom. And he came back and said, what for? Thought we were getting together on the 11th, trying to sort out a babysitter. I said, there's pod developers run through, don't panic, I'm recording. And he said, sorry, I'm on paternity leave, so not picking up emails and WhatsApp groups are on mute. Not sure yet how much I'm going to be able to play this year. Planning on coming to Inverness.
Yep, and I do have the odd shiver down my spine that whether we peaked last season, that's all the wrong thing to say on the end of the development, but there's just a stack of people saying, oh, I don't know what I can play, but we just have to work at it.
But that happens every year.
Yeah.
But it does speak to a significant problem with bowling.
Yeah.
Hollywood we know isn't going to be around much. Raj we know won't be here at the start of the season. Gilles is also sketchy. But there's 3 of your 5 first team bowlers.
Yeah.
They'll have to be replaced, which means the 2s are going to be possibly get back into another position where I would expect we'll be leaving mids out again in the first game, but we may have to leave out a batsman in order to accommodate a not very good bowler or a very inexperienced bowler.
Yeah.
But most of these kids that are coming through are predominantly bowlers from our point of view.
Well, that's something. Yeah, but we won't have Taj for half a season, I suppose, will we?
No, I guess not. I mean, he's tipped that he's coming to all the nets.
Yeah. Okay.
But presumably he'll be playing. Well, if Marcus turns up and says Taj has decided to prioritise club over school, then we know he didn't get picked for the school ones.
Yeah.
But I mean, early part of the season, if we know we're going to be short of bowling, maybe we need to, not fast track exactly, but really concentrate on people like Malachi, Max, George Cow.
We don't know what their school commitments are, do we?
No. No, that is one. Tor is another one. Who could easily bowl twos.
Yeah.
Don't think Anna Dow is quite ready, but
I was thinking Samuel possibly should have been in your pod because he's going to have to bowl.
well, I mean, I think we've got to be careful that the pods don't become exclusive.
Yeah.
I can't talk to you because you're not in my pod sort of thing.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, basically what we've got is 10, and again, we are light on bowling in that sense because of the 10 pods, 7 of them are batting. One's an all-rounder pod and 2 are bowling pods. Now, if someone like Sam wants to talk about bowling, I'm always happy to talk to anybody about it. And we can work on stuff in the nets if possible.
Yeah.
My only issue at the moment is I'm not exactly sure of my net availability this year.
Of your what?
My net availability.
Right. Is it work? Yeah.
Well, it's much work, but my cancelling placement, it will be an evening during the week.
Yeah.
Now, I'd suggested to her that Tuesday would be the best one for me because it's voluntary. She's like, "Well, you tell me what day you want to do, and we'll do that."
Yeah.
But I've got to fit in with them to some extent. I'm going to try and keep it away from the Wednesday. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, if Sam wants to come and chat about bowling or wants to run in and bowl 30 balls and with me watching, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
I think with these kids, we'll probably have, certainly with the girls, we'll have a much more, or it's much more likely that we'll be engaged with them towards the latter part of the season because they're going to have junior cricket, county cricket. Being able to commit to senior nets on a Wednesday night might be a stretch too far for them for the first couple of months. And once the juniors all calms down and they've not got any other cricket, that's where we'll probably see the most out of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, the fees will be capacity. Okay, right.
All right. Okay. See you later.
Yeah, good to know. Bye.
Bye.